Good day, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Anna Smith, and my clients know me as the Mindset Architect. I've spent close to 3 decades working inside and outside global organizations, and what I do is basically help transform how the leaders think, decide, and perform. My own journey into this work began many years ago when I realized that really traditional leadership development was missing something very, very critical. And why leaders that went through leadership development programs, for example, didn't all, evolve and grow automatically after going through programs and practicing what we've taught them. Like many other very driven and high performing leaders, I once believed success was purely about my technical skills, my strategic knowledge, my relentless execution. You cannot get away from that. And I was very, very focused on results. But at the same time, I was definitely burning out, not only myself, but my teams in the process. Very, very unfortunate byproduct of working like this. All of this experience, which I'm summarizing, and this is years and years of research and practical work, led me to discover what now I call mindset intelligence. And this is the focus of my latest book. Think of it this way: you can have the most powerful engine in the world, but if the transmission is broken, all of the horsepower goes basically nowhere. That's what happens to most leaders. They have all of these tremendous potential. And by the way, when I talk about leaders, this applies to every single human being. We're all born with a absolute full tank of potential, but very, very few people really get to tap, to its total, to its max. I'll tell you more about it in a moment. These leaders have tremendous potential, but without really a focus on mindset intelligence, a deliberate focus, that potential never fully translates into performance. And here's one thing that I want you to hold on: your mindset is really the lens that filters everything you see, everything you feel, and choose. In this case, we're talking about leadership, but it applies to every single other aspect of our life. So, more on that. Mindset intelligence, guys, is really that missing link between potential and performance. So, this is what connects or bridges or brings out your potential and your performance. It's your ability to on a conscious modality, really choose and upgrade and decide what mental models I'm going to use to lead, to decide, and certainly to connect with others. This is not theory. It could sound like just basically abstract theory or a concept, but basically the research around neuroscience shows that mindset predicts up to 75% of our long term leadership performance. So, leaders who are thriving today aren't really necessarily those that have IQ or EQ, or even the most experienced, the most accolades. They're the ones who can learn, unlearn, and relearn the fastest while bringing their teams along. So that's exactly where we're going to be, hopefully, engaging in conversation today. And one bit that I want to make sure and leave you as well is, after working with literally thousands of leaders over the past close to 3 decades, companies like Microsoft, like American Express, like Hewlett Packard, General Electric, etc., uh, one of the things that we've been doing wrong around leadership development is that we've been doing it backwards. And what I mean by that is that we teach what we do. And what I mean by that is new frameworks, strategies, tools, you name it. But really nobody talks about how do we help you think better, be more effective, be more efficient around how do you optimize for that. The very important thing here, and why we're talking about this topic, and why we're bringing it forward, why it is so powerful, it's because every single behavior that we see, and our focus today is leadership, but every single behavior that we see comes from our subconscious. And our subconscious basically is where everything, or unconscious, is where everything resides. Areas like habits, values, beliefs, all of our experiences, etc., live and reside in our subconscious. Why is that important? Because we see the conscious aspects, like the behavior, but everything really starts, and I do this as if it were below, because I see it as below, in that subconscious world. So in conclusion, before I open it up for questions from you guys, comments, reactions, is our beliefs, think of it as a cycle, if you may. Our beliefs trigger our thoughts. Our thoughts are going to trigger our emotions. Our emotions are going to trigger our actions and behaviors. So this is very much how our operating system works in our mind and in our brains, and therefore it's sometimes very difficult to understand why people behave the way they behave. Well, you have to go to aspects as limiting beliefs, for example. So let's jump into questions, and hopefully you have some real challenges that we can help you all with today, um, around the work that you might be doing, the uh, if you're, for example, looking for a job, if you're thinking about transitioning from the current job that you may have, etc. Some of those questions all happening here. So please let me know if you have them. The Q&A chat is open. Please feel free to post your questions there. And if not, I'll give you a couple of more areas for you to think and reflect about. Okay? Let's see. I have a couple of folks typing here. So let's continue then while they finish typing their questions. So another very important aspect that we have to consider when we think about mindset intelligence is that this is another way or another representation for us to have of neuroplasticity. And some of you may have already heard about neuroplasticity. For the longest time, we thought that, and probably up to 20 or so years ago, we thought that we were born with a set of neurons, and that those neurons were gonna, die as we grew older and older. It was discovered that our neurons and our connections can grow with the things that we learn. And if we need to unlearn something, we can also do that through neuroplasticity. So this is extremely important, because sometimes we believe that it's going to be very difficult for us to maybe change lanes into a different function, or into a different level or layer, or a different bigger challenge, and it's not. So one of the questions that we have here is, what's a good first step? What's a good excuse me, what's a good first step to take to start building your mindset intelligence? I greatly appreciate this. So the first thing that I typically recommend my clients, my coaching clients or leadership clients, to do is, we need to make an inventory. We need to start journaling. I recommend 3 to 5 days. What are those recurring patterns of thought that we have? What are the things that we frequently think about? For example, if I'm looking for a job right now and I'm thinking, I am not good enough, they haven't called me, I must be doing something wrong. What am I missing? It's probably me. I don't have the right skill set. I don't speak the number of languages that others have. I don't come from the same schools, etc. So we need to start to journal those frequent thoughts. Just journal them, literally writing on a book, on a notebook, and then start to ask this. Let's say that we did this over the weekend. So we start today and we do it over the weekend. Start to think about what of these thoughts are true. What evidence do I have of this? How do you know that you are not better than the other candidates at hand? How do you know that? What are some of the specifics? You're going to realize that there is really, for the most part, there is no evidence for that. So you can start to deactivate, um, those thoughts. And when the thought comes again, you can say that is not true. Literally, you say to yourself that is not true. That is one of the first and most powerful ways. But you have to start to do it. And again, mindset intelligence is it's a muscle, right? We have to build it. But that's the first. It is simple, but it is very, very powerful. So hopefully that's helpful for everyone. And then we have, what mental models are most useful in job search and get through rejections. I think this is such a powerful aspect. And one of the ways that I would like to also mention is that you guys are already in a phenomenal program and journey with Work It Daily. They have tools, resources, amazing conversations to set you in the right path. And some of the mental models, I believe, that can help you, and especially think through rejections, is: do you have a strategy? Go back to your strategy. Do you need to review your strategy, and what are you doing? What are some of the rejections? And I know that some organizations, or most organizations, especially here in the US, they don't tell you what the rejection was, and therefore it's probably a little bit nebulous. Think about it this way: what is most important for me? Don't allow that a rejection distracts you. Pay attention. If you have the input, for example, you are too high in your salary, well, and that's important to you, the salary that you're after, then that's a different, that was a mismatch in terms of salary. But think about this as an opportunity to go back to your strategy on what you're on your looking for a job journey. Are there things that I can tighten? Are there things that I can do differently? But mental models, in the same way that they can be positive, they can be negative influencers of ours. And negative meaning distractors, because they don't have a base or a data to do anything or be as powerful. Okay, so that's another area. How can I tell if my current mindset is holding me back in my job search or career? This is a tremendously amazing question. Um, think about it this way: we said that, or I shared with you guys that in order to think about your mindset intelligence, you have to think about your beliefs, which trigger your thoughts, which trigger your emotions, which trigger your actions and your behaviors. So when you think about um, anything around your mindset that might be holding you back, we have to go to think about what are the beliefs that you may have. I'll give you and limiting beliefs, for example. So I'll use, for example, the belief that I am not good enough. That's why they let me go from my previous organization, right? I am not good enough. That's why they choose me. That was the reason. I can assure you, 99% of the time, that is a belief that is incorrect. A belief in your mind that is incorrect. Why? Because organizations, remember that organizations are businesses, and they make decisions based on what is important to them first in order to achieve the results that the shareholders are expecting or even surpass them. So that is one very important thing. So you have to almost take a step back and say, what are some of the beliefs that I have about me? That I am not good enough, that I don't present as powerfully as I would want to present, that I am not as clear in my interviews, that I don't prepare and I try to go more impromptu. What are those models? Because if there is facts, remember what I mentioned before, if there are facts to support that, then that's a path for us to work on. If there are no specifics there, then it's basically something that we made up. And remember, one aspect that I haven't you know presented per se, but is very important, is that our beliefs are formed when we are very, very young, when we're children. And these beliefs are formed by the people that surround us, by the people that care for us, our parents, our uncles, our families, our friends, our teachers, etc. So if you, for example, grew up in a family where the topic of money, that's a favorite mental model and limiting belief that you would not imagine how many of us have around money. And I am not, because obviously at home they told us, or our family, etc., what do you think, money grows on trees? Or what do you think, I'm printing money? Why are you asking for more money? So for you as a child, subconsciously this becomes a story. And when we grow up, we start to think about money as something very scarce and very difficult to acquire and very difficult to obtain, and potentially I am not going to be worthwhile to invest on me. So this is a consideration. If you think about it, it is really complete. It's not only false, because that was their mental models at that point in time when we were growing up, in this example that I'm giving you guys. But at the same time, it is something that if you identify that this is something important for you, then you have to start to think about, okay, is this really, what facts do I have around it? Is it really true? And really, just, we need to just look around and see, all the opportunities around. It's a way to see this as opportunities or challenges. And I understand, believe me, it is not an easy thing to do, or an easy position to be in, but obviously very, very powerful. So hopefully this is useful for all of you. Let me see for any other questions that we may have. So what are the ways, thank you for the question, David, what are the ways to change a core belief? What is interplay between values and beliefs? Oh, two super important questions. So let me just set the context, which I think is going to be helpful for everyone. The subconscious part of our mind resides. Think of it of an iceberg. The subconscious part of our mind is everything that is underwater, and it's about 95% of our mind. That's where all of our stories, all of our values, beliefs, um, everything that we have experienced is there. It's stored there. And only 5% is the conscious part of our mind. That's where we see behaviors, for example, etc. So coming full circle to your question, is that interplay between values and beliefs. If you're able to identify and have very, very clearly identified what your values are, and then do a parallel contrast with your beliefs, it's a very interesting example. How do you go about doing this? Well, First of all, you have to identify what your beliefs are if you don't have them top of mind. And values may change along the our lifetime. It's not that everything has to be set in stone, values wise, but there are some really good lists that you can have access to, in Google, etc., chat, GPT, etc., on give me a list of all the values or values available. So take a look at the values and identify what those are. So first, you do that exercise. What are the ones that you usually leverage or utilize? What is How do you make your decisions? And I'll give you a quick example. If, for example, one of the values is your family, or one of your values is security, when you make a decision around a job, even if it's a promotion, even if it's a how do I decide if I take this job or not, you typically subconsciously are going to connect to that value of family or security in order to achieve those. But if you bring them to the surface, meaning to the conscious, you're going to be able to say, is this job offer really addressing and completing my values? Okay, that's very, very important as you go about your search, if that is the case, or decision making, or anything in particular around a career journey. The second piece is, how do you compare and contrast with beliefs? Well, by now, we talked about how do you identify those beliefs that you have, and those are going to come from your thoughts, your recurring thoughts. That's how you can much more easily connect them. So we have started journaling those recurring thoughts that we have. And recurring thoughts, guys, remember, the brain and your mind basically, um, they are neutral. Whatever you tell them is the truth, that is the truth. So like Henry Ford said, whether you can do it or you cannot do it, you're correct. So that's the important thing, and that's the power of your great question, David, because it connects directly to your limiting beliefs and your values. So hopefully, with that exercise, you can identify and reconnect, and have a top of mind of values and beliefs, and it's going to help you a ton in terms of how do you build the muscle. And then the other aspect of this two-pronged question was, how do you change a core belief? Well, if the belief is something that is um, pertinent for you and useful for you, and what I mean by that is, I am a high achiever. It's important to me that things are done correctly, that I complete things, that I do them well, that I take the time to really make sure that I give them my best shot, then that belief is serving you well. If the I'm going to change from core belief to a limiting belief. If that core belief is limiting, if I don't do everything perfect, I am wrong, because that is what they taught me in school. So that can be very, very exhausting. But if that is a core belief that you have that has the qualifier of limiting belief, you live your life with probably a lot of stress and a lot of frustration, because we are only human, right? We are not machines. We don't do everything perfect, right? So hopefully that answers the question, and thank you for bringing it up. So how can I show potential employers that I have leadership mindset skills, even I've never had a leadership title? Guys, this is um, so powerful. So from my perspective, let me give you a little bit of context. When you work in the space of learning and the space of leadership development, at least for me, the number one company that really had a phenomenal formula for developing leaders is General Electric. General Electric, because they have really put their money where their mouth is. They have, just as they put money and put focus on R&D, they put focus on leadership development. And even in the times where things are more difficult or more um, challenging financially, etc., and you have to look at your resources and where can I cut, they never touch the one for leadership and management. This is what has taken GE or GE executives to be the number one producer. So GE is the number one producer of CEOs in the world as a company. So a lot of the CEOs that we see now in organizations in the world, they have been alumni of GE, and part of that is definitely with this, because when you continue, consistency is really the magic there. And I give this concept because one of the components at GE in terms of mindset around leadership is that everybody is a leader, whether you have the leadership responsibility, the leadership title, whether you have a team behind you, whether you are managing a project for the first time. It really didn't matter because it was really a mindset. And I think that this question is beautiful because of that opportunity. If you think about the work that you do as the leader, so if I were the leader of this particular initiative, what would I do? What are some of the things that I would be bringing to the table? And then you start to switch your lenses. Remember that your mindset is the lens through which you see things. So if I would invite all of you to put those leadership glasses today and have them permanently. So this can be a way in which you can showcase to a potential employer that they have a future leader title wise in their hands. Let me give you a practical example. If you are interviewing, or if you are presenting yourself, or in your LinkedIn profile, be sure to incorporate led or co-led, developed, presented, drove, etc. These action verbs, that versus I was part of the team. It's very different to say I was part of the team and or say I was the leader within the project. I was the leader of all of the communications for the project. So the project was a success, and I led the communication arm across the board. So this is going to be one way. So make it tangible and think about, with those leadership glasses, what would a leader do and what have I done that demonstrate my leadership potential and my leadership visibility to them. You're not afraid to jump in and do things. I see that we're at time. I want to thank you all for your time today, and certainly for all your questions, and hope you have a great rest of your day. My information, if you need to reach out, is in the Work It Daily site. Thank you so much. Please take care. Bye bye.